So could you tell us about your autoimmune thing, how it came about? No, because it's
Yeah.
pretty tough what you went through, but and then as a result, what have you had to change in your life? I guess
Everything.
really
Yeah.
that bad.
Yeah. I mean, I'm very much a kind of I always like to see the silver lining in everything.
Mm-hmm.
And so like in 2019, I guess it was kind of around then that I started getting really tired. And like I was always full of energy, like crazy energy. I didn't even really need coffee ever. I would barely sleep. I would work because I was working nightlife too. So I'd work nightlife and then wake up after like 3 hours sleep and just live my day as normal. And then around like 2019, I was just getting really tired and like really bloated and just like I got this crazy rash like all over my neck and my face. I think when we first met, I probably had that rash. I don't know. And
I don't recall a rash, to be honest.
I probably hit it quite well.
But you hit it well, yeah.
And I didn't understand what was causing it. I was traveling a lot and I thought maybe I'd picked up some kind of like parasite or something. So I had all these tests and everything. And it's taken up until like the end of 2020 to realize that I have this like genetic thing where my white blood cells, I lack in a certain type and it causes my mucous membranes to not be like to be porous or whatever, leaky or whatever. So it affects my gut. And so now if I eat gluten or dairy and even alcohol as well, it triggers this autoimmune reaction. So basically my body just starts killing itself. That's what it feels like. Yeah, it's horrible.
Nice.
But when it's like really
Sounds
bad.
pleasant.
When it's really bad, it's honestly what I'd imagine dying would feel like.
Oh God.
Yeah, it's shit. But no, as long as I'm on top of it and if I don't stress my body out too much and I'm careful with what I eat, then I'm fine. But what triggered it?
What's it called? Sorry.
I don't know what the name is. I can't remember now. The doctor said, but
that's the science, kids.
That's the one. That's the science.
Sorry, go on, carry on. So,
but I just say celiac because it's just easier.
It's similar
to
to
say that.
celiac.
It's basically the same as celiac.
Fine,
yeah.
Okay.
But what I think triggered it, to be honest, was just basically killing myself and just not looking after my body, and my body just freaked out and was like, yo, like what's going on here? And because I just, like I said, I wasn't eating enough, and like there was a period where I was making myself sick as well, which definitely I think was the main cause of it. So that's why I say everything happens for a reason in life, and you've always got to see the silver linings, because it made me just stop. Because I got so ill, I couldn't even get out of bed. Whereas before I was go. And I was like, wow, like I actually physically can't do anything anymore. It made me stop and realize, okay, the way I was living is just not sustainable whatsoever. And I need to stop and change it and stop being so hard on myself the whole time. Because what kind of a way to live is that? And not enjoying anything really.
Yeah, it's funny. I didn't expect you to say any of that, to be honest. When I was preparing for this, I didn't know, because like I said, because you seem so uninhibited. Like you don't seem particularly a different person on camera from what I know. I really didn't. I'm quite shocked about that actually. Do you mind if we touch on what you're saying about making yourself feel sick? So, I mean, obviously, I'm sorry to hear that you went through that, but do you think it was all connected to the social media element amongst other things, or could you really pinpoint it, or do you just think?
Do you know what? I actually couldn't even explain why. There is no rationale to it. Because even at the time, it's crazy because at the time, you rationalize it to yourself. But then afterwards, in hindsight, you're like, that makes no sense whatsoever.
Yeah.
It literally makes zero sense.
You can do that in so many different things as well.
Yeah. But I think, to be honest, what triggered it was that because leading up to that point, I was working out so hard and I wasn't eating enough. I was super stressed out. I had a really bad year in 2017 and I never really discussed any of my problems with anyone. Like I still kind of struggle with it because I don't like burdening people with problems. Everyone has their own crap to deal with.
Okay, we're here. This is actually a psychotherapy session.
This is actually therapy.
So, yeah, technically. It's just recorded. So people can relate to it.
I wouldn't mind doing that, to be honest. If it helps at least one person, I'm happy.
I totally agree, yeah.
And I think my body was just so stressed out that I was very malnourished. And so I think I started getting these like crazy cravings. So I would binge. And then in my mind, I'm like, oh my God, I've just eaten so much food. I'm going to get fat. And the working out, I was already working out like crazy. I couldn't do that anymore. So that was one way to purge the calories I was eating, which I needed to eat for my body to function. So then I was like, oh, well, I can just make myself sick and then I can get rid of the food that way. And it was almost like, I think, a purging of this negative, like all this stress and negativity that I was just harboring. in like a more spiritual sense. And there was the day that I stopped was 16th of December, 2019. I remember that day very well. And I was flying first class from Japan back to London. And I don't know if you've flown first class before. Or
Sadly,
business class.
Sadly, never
Oh
had
no, I'm so
business.
sorry. It was business. Sorry, not
Okay,
first.
fine.
I'm not that bougie. Yeah, it was business.
No,
And like,
not yet.
Not yet. And on business, they give you so much food, right? And it's always amazing.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, wow, all the food. And I ate so much. And at that time, I kind of knew as well that gluten and dairy triggered this stuff that I had going on, but I kind of still was in denial about it. So I was still eating it. So the way I'd rationalize it was like, oh, I just eaten all these foods that are going to make me ill. I need to make myself sick to get rid of it. I remember being in the toilets in business class on the flight, made myself sick. I looked in the mirror and I didn't even recognize the person looking back at me. I was like, that was not the same person. Like I didn't know who that person was. My face, I looked like a frog. My face was so like bloated and my eyes were bloodshot. I just looked ill. I looked terrible. And I just looked sad. And I was like, this needs to stop. And that was the day I was like, I need to make a change. And then obviously lockdown happened in March. And then from March throughout the whole of the summer, I was just working so hard and just resting and just really focusing on just getting my health back together. And now I feel great.
Yeah, fantastic. No, thanks for sharing that. It's really like do you think there was a relief in it at first? That may sound like an odd question, but did you get a relief out of doing it at first? Yeah. Was that
almost
kind of the
like
attraction?
in my mind I was like, I'm winning.
Yeah.
Like I've figured out like a loophole here. Like I can get away with, eating and doing whatever I want and then just being sick. It's honestly just nonsense. And there's also in the media, they have a lot to answer for, to be honest, because there'll be articles where it's like almost glorifying it, because you'll read about models like Gigi Hadid and Bella Hadid, and there's lots of rumors about them, purging and making themselves sick, and that's how they stay so skinny, but yet they're caught eating burgers and stuff. So in a weird subconscious way, girls will read that and think, oh, if they're doing it and they look amazing, then it's all right. And when you Google it and you Google the side effects and the long-term effects of it, nothing really that bad comes up. Or not that you think is that bad.
Or it just maybe only touches on the physical element when they're not talking about the mental side. I
mean, for me personally, I've eroded a lot of my teeth. It's funny because I've had Invisalign, so I've had my teeth scanned. Yeah. And it's been a whole process with my Invisalign. But 2 years down the line, so first got them scanned, and now 2 years down the line, even I can see where my bottom teeth have eroded down from the scan. And I'm like, oh crap, that's not good. And also obviously I triggered this autoimmune disorder, which I think is probably quite common. I think a lot of people that might happen to. All the bloating and my hair, I lost half my hair.
When you
from the stress of it,
the stress of it. Oh,
that's growing back now, which is really nice. I've got all the baby hairs coming through, which is made me feel so happy again. So I would never ever relapse back into that state, but if anyone else went through what I did, it makes me really sad to think about someone else going through that.
Any without being too general, any advice? I mean, and because I always think these sort of things are fascinating in the sense. Obviously, I've told you half the reason why we do this and what I have planned and for the future and stuff. And I think if people can realise, sometimes on the flip side, when we talked about being quite introspective, the other side is when you're so introspective, you sort of get lost in it a bit. Yeah, I think sometimes if you can almost take yourself out and imagine you're a little guy over there looking at you, you'd probably laugh at yourself and think you're so ridiculous. And I found that helpful. I don't know if that was a similar thing for you. Apart, obviously, you saw yourself in the mirror and you thought, no, and that's kind of a similar thing. Would there be anything else that really stood out that sort of struck a chord with you when you said enough is enough, or was it just the particular moment?
Unfortunately for me, I'm kind of a person. I'm quite headstrong. And there were a few people in my life who were worried about me and did try and help, but because I was so, intent on what I was doing was the right thing, I didn't really listen to it. So for me, I had to hit rock bottom before I realized that I'm just kind of ruining myself.
Yeah. Most people do, by the way. I think it's all down to themselves at the end of the day.
But does that have to happen? I don't know. I mean, if any advice I could give to someone who's going through, I think question why? Why are you doing it? what is the actual, because it's all very well and good treating the symptoms. That is a symptom of further problems that you're, it's inside of yourself. So it's all very well stopping yourself, but what's actually causing you doing it? I think that's something that people should consider, whether reaching out and speaking to someone like a professional, or starting to maybe just sit with yourself and try and get to know yourself a bit better, or start journaling. I feel like journaling has been great release. It's amazing.
It's one of the best things you can do.
Just start writing, and just all this stuff comes out and you're like, whoa, where did that come from?
Oh, I actually feel that. That's great.
Yeah. And I just think, just stop being so hard on yourself.
Pretty much.
Just some self-love.
Did you speak to people in similar situations at the time, or have you since?
Not really, no. I'm open about it now because I feel like it's behind me. But at the time, I was so embarrassed. I never spoke about it to anyone, to be honest. And if anyone did try and speak to me about it, I would shut them down. And just like, I was like, oh, I'm not doing it anymore. Or we're like, no, I haven't done it in ages, kind of thing. Because I never wanted to confront it. And I still don't understand why.
Do you think, I was going to ask, do you think it's connected to when you first started getting in front of the camera a lot?
No, it's nothing.
You think it's earlier than that?
I've always struggled with like eating since I was like 16, I guess. Actually, funnily enough, I've now like thinking about it, and in hindsight, I think it has a lot to being on the contraceptive pill.
Okay. Combined
with my personality type, because the pill that I was on, it increases. I was on the progesterone only pill, which for girls out there, they'll know what that means. And I feel
like I half know what that means, but not quite. Do you know? Have you got any idea? No idea at all. Yeah.
So it's a hormone that's, because obviously girls go through their cycle and all the hormones change the whole time. Progesterone it increases stress within your body. So if you're a naturally stressed out person, which I wasn't really ever before, but I was always quite type A, I think that just kind of supercharged that. And when I started taking the pill when I was 16, that's when I started having these problems, and I would just stress, and I was so skinny, and I think to be honest, it messed up my personality a lot being on the pill.
I know a lot of girls who've either had the implant or they've had to go in between different pills because they're just a different person.
It's not good.
Really. Yeah.
And the fact that that's normalized, obviously like you don't want to get pregnant, but at the same time, it's not you. That's not who you are.
Yeah.
So I can't fully blame it on that, but I think it does have a lot to do with it.
So it's early. You think it's more deep rooted than just being in front of the camera, essentially.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Obviously, that has a part to play. You'll watch videos and you think, oh, I look a bit fat there, or oh, I got a double chin when I pull that face, or
yeah, good point.
Shoulders back.
Yeah, sorry, I need to change my pose. Cut. No, sorry. So yeah, it's definitely connected to that, but you think it's more deep rooted.
Yeah, I think it all stems from just not loving yourself, right?
Gotta love yourself.
You have to. Otherwise, you're just gonna be you'd be the biggest bully ever, always.
To yourself.
To yourself, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking about what like when you talked about the pill. Like, if you don't mind me asking, have you been off it since you were a teenager? Have you taken periods off it?
So yeah, I was on and off it for since the age of 16 to 23, and for the last 2 years, I've not touched it.
And just feel much better.
I feel like a different person. Like, I feel great.
Yeah.
And I think it's almost like I've gone through a second puberty. I know that sounds a bit crass to like talk about, but it's true, because it's like you're taking hormones, and like those hormones are changing your body. And at 16, that's so young. But that's normal. Yeah. That was normal, and it still is.
It's still very normal.
Taking hormones when your body is developed. And I was a late developer as well. So like, when I look back at it, I'm just like, wow, I can't believe that doctors are actually like are proponents of this. But for obvious reasons, because they don't want
it's obvious, pregnancies. But you do hear continuous stories of where it's all over the place, and it's kind of
handed out like candy.
Yeah, and then if a girl or woman, takes it for too long, then they really struggle with being the sort of fertility side for a while, for a good 6 months.
Yeah, there's that as well. Yeah,
which I think is just really unfair, really, but. But anyway, I obviously wanted to touch on, I mean, you mentioned your psychology earlier, and obviously we're in a psychotherapy session at the moment.
Yeah, we are. Jesus.
But which is nice, by the way. I'm really glad you feel comfortable enough to express yourself. But you did a psychology degree.
I did.
Firstly, yeah. Can't you tell? Do you think that has connected at all to your career? Do you think it's helped at all?
Massively. People always say to me, they're like, "You don't feel like you wasted your time going to university and studying psychology?"
No, I don't think so. When I read about it and saw it in one of your videos, it made sense.
Yeah, I always wanted to go to drama school. That's what I wanted to do, but my school wouldn't let me. They were like, "Drama school's a waste of time. You need to go to a proper university and do a proper subject." And I was like, "Okay, well, I didn't want to do any of my A-levels. I did biology, chemistry, French, and geography. Oh, I didn't really want to do any of those. I love biology, but I didn't really want to do it for a degree. So I was like, oh, well, what's a subject that I can actually talk to people about, and it's actually relatable to everyday life? Psychology, you know, people are everywhere. You know, businesses can't run without people. So yeah, I did that, and I'm happy I did it because I feel like it's given me a lot of what's the word I'm looking for? Not validity, but it's given me a lot of like
perhaps value when you meet someone.
Yeah, I think it changed when I tell people like that I got a degree and the result and everything. It kind of
you think people
changed
are
their
like,
perspective of
okay.
me. Yeah,
Right,
and actually, because I think being like a young blonde girl, especially when I just left university, like, you know, posting pics on Instagram and bikinis and stuff, people don't maybe necessarily think you got much in between the ears.
Yeah, there's definitely a blanket assumption, yeah, for sure.
And which is a shame. And I think, and I would always see it, like I would see people's, in their eyes change. They're like, oh shit, like this girl's not just, you know, what I thought she was.
Yeah.
And also in the sense that it definitely did develop my way of thinking in a different way, like more analytical, more thorough. I've always been curious, like I've always loved reading, but it's definitely helped in terms of developing arguments and like being more thorough in developing arguments and being more critical and just critical thinking. Yeah.
Do you think like when you present on TV, right, and you meet people and you chat to them, do you think it naturally, maybe I think in part people have it or they don't, or they're naturally more aware of other people's body language and all these things, or maybe just have almost like a sixth sense? But do you think that also helps? Because when you engage with people, you can tell if they really want to be talking to you, and then you can try and disarm them or that sort of thing. So I've noticed it's quite important with what we're doing.
Do I give the impression I don't want to talk to you?
Yeah, frankly, I think we should stop now.
It's a bit awkward.
Yeah, it's really, really awkward. There's a big barrier here, guys. In case you can't tell, there's a big barrier. No, but so I'd put it this way. I don't think this is a secret, but if there's one thing I could compliment myself on, I think in general, I usually disarm people quite quickly when I speak to them.
I noticed that about you.
Yeah. So and I wasn't aware of it until more recently, and I almost don't want to be aware of it, because that's the interesting part. So there's two sides to it, really. You know, you want to, especially in the world that I'm in a bit, and you have your own thing too. You want to be aware of some stuff, but I think there is an element of you want it to be as natural as possible, but you have to be. It's such a fine balance. I just wondered if you think you've done it quite naturally, or you've been quite conscious of it, or you think just generally the psychology element has given you a bit of a strength of what you do.
If anything, the psychology element of it has given me more understanding about people and being less, not that I was ever judgmental, to be honest, but kind of less, I think more open to understanding why people behave the way they do. So like if someone's standoffish with me, or if someone's shy around me, or if someone's rude, or if someone's short, like before I would get offended or I would get upset, but now it's more like an understanding of why perhaps they're doing that. And I think, same as you, like I think I'm quite good at getting people to open up to me. And,
Yeah, I agree.